I'd never.
Seatbelt on, all aboard.
See, this is because you spared last time you were driving. I was in the passenger
seat. Well, you should go respect zeros because.
Did you start recording at that point? Hi, it's Talking Reds. I'm Josh Sexton, joined today by Craig Hannan. We're going to talk a little bit about the England game last night, although I didn't watch it. In fairness, Craig, but we know one player in particular did impress. Craig was probably too busy watching Northern Ireland get beat, weren't you, William?
That was not on the agenda. We're not talking about any Northern Ireland defeats. Keep going.
Yeah, well, the player we are going to be talking about is Joe Gomez, who impressed again for England last night. He's won 5 caps for England now and has put in some really good performances. One game I did watch in particular, Craig, was that Brazil game last season where he was playing as part of a back three and he dealt with Neymar and the threat of all them really well. But John Gibbons wrote a piece for the Anfield Wrap last week. He runs the Wednesday column at the moment, and he wrote a piece about the amount of centre-backs that Liverpool have had over recent years in particular that haven't managed to make it at the club, and Gomez is sort of breaking that mould, and he's taken a bit of an unfamiliar route, I think, for a lot of footballers who are coming through at this stage, because he sort of spent time, at Charlton. That's where he sort of came through, and then he's come to Liverpool and he was thrown straight in at the deep end, obviously getting the first team and playing at left back, and I think that versatility has helped him as well, the fact that he has played right back and left back, because we've seen Jamie Carragher obviously doing a bit of that. But what do you make of his progression? Because I think in particular this season, when he's had chance at centre back in the past, I remember that Wolves game where it was particularly disappointing. It sort of looks like that might not be his actual position, even though that's what he wanted it to be. And then he's played at right back and left back and impressed. But now he's finally got the chance.
Yeah, I think even sort of 2 seasons ago as well, he was given a chance against Plymouth in the FA Cup, and I remember being really disappointed with him. And look, he's a young player at that stage. He'd been out injured for a long time, and he was so unlucky because, when we first signed him, I remember that first 5-6 games he played at left back under Rodgers, and just being so excited by him. Like he looked the real deal, and for him to sort of step up from playing only a handful of games for Charlton and to be thrown in straight at the deep end, that sort of, I think it told us a story as fans that he'd really impressed, not only in pre-season, in that first pre-season at Liverpool under Rodgers, but in training, and he'd shown that he could be the real deal for Liverpool. And obviously injuries sort of curtailed that, and look, at times last season we saw it as well. We saw how good he could be, mostly at right back, but there were times where he made a couple of mistakes, but we just have to, as fans, we have to accept that that's going to happen, because it's so easy to forget how young he still is, because it feels as if he's been kicking around for ages. Like I said, he's been injured quite a lot of his Liverpool career, but still feels as if he should be about 24 now, and he's not. I quite like the route that he's taken to this Liverpool side as well. The fact that he did come through at Charlton, played a bit down there. I think John Stones was similar as well before he moved to, I think it was from Bristol City to Everton. I might have got that wrong, might have made that up.
Barnsley, I think it was.
Barnsley, yeah. There we go, thank you. So it's a similar route, and it was funny last night. I got a text from a mate who's a City fan, and the text didn't even say hello. It just said, "I finally get Joe Gomez," and he's sort of that. I think that's nice, because far too often opposition fans will just look. They'll see the name Gomez on the team sheet, and they'll be like, "Nah, we can get at Liverpool here." And
I almost don't think we help sometimes, and I think quite a lot with like the players we've got now. Like when we've seen Curtis Jones coming through in pre-season, I sometimes feel like as Liverpool fans, I don't know if all fans do it about their own team. It probably is the case, but we can sometimes get carried away about these young players, and sometimes I look at Gomez and Trent and think, are we getting a bit too carried away, or are these genuinely good footballers? But Gomez at the moment is looking like someone who genuinely, I don't know what his ceiling is, because it's so high.
Yeah, and I think if you've he seems to get on really well with Van Dijk. I think I watched one of the LFC TV interviews with Van Dijk where they walk around the pitch, and he said that one of his mates was Gomez, and I think that's nice. Because you feel as if there's one footballer and I suppose professional to learn from, it's for Joe Gomez, it's Virgil Van Dijk, and B, what better defender to play alongside. And we've talked in the past about when maybe a central defender comes in, they're playing alongside Lovren or they're playing alongside Matip, and it's they're not necessarily been talked through the game. They're not they're not getting that same help, because those players are just trying to concentrate on their own game and getting through the game. And I think with Van Dijk, he's just got this air of superiority, and he's got the experience, not only because I think it says on the agenda there that Van Dijk he came through at Celtic. He had to play SPL. He had to sort of ply his trade there and work his way up Southampton and now Liverpool. And look, it's exactly right. I think that's the best thing about Joe Gomez is we don't know what his ceiling is, and people are taking notice, both England fans around the country, and it looks like those two can be a formidable partnership for the next however number of years. Hopefully Joe Gomez is about longer than Van Dijk as well, because Van Dijk's 27 as well. Yeah. Joe Gomez is 21. I think
something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, we should have done that research. Well, see, that should be on your agenda. Let's do it. But yeah, hopefully he'll be at Liverpool for a long time to come. Yeah,
and Van Dijk's looking like a bit of an injury concern alongside a couple of them for the Saturday game against Huddersfield. Ronald Koeman coming out the other day and saying that he's apparently been playing with broken ribs for quite a while. But Liverpool seem to have managed it quite well, I think, Craig, because we've sort of come with all these injury concerns. But I think there was a bit of thing before the international break about how Liverpool only wanted Salah to play one game anyway, and he seems to have come back and he seems to be looking like he's fit for the weekend. Koeman saying that Van Dijk's probably going to be fit for the Liverpool game as well. And then there's the Mane one last night, which is a thumb injury. Not really sure if thumb injury should be ruling you out of a game. I remember Jamie Vardy that season when Leicester won the league. I'm pretty sure he played the whole season with a broken wrist, and they didn't want him to get surgery because as soon as he did, that's when they ruled him out. So I imagine Mane could just get that strapped up and he'd be sound.
Hopefully, I saw a few people on Twitter saying that he might miss Huddersfield at the weekend, and that'd be a bit of a blow. Considering it is a hand injury, and hopefully he'll be able to sort of battle through that.
But you wonder what that does for the other options in the squad as well then, Craig, because I think Sturridge and Shaqiri are two players in particular would probably been sort of wanting them to get a few more minutes or a few more starts under the belt, but that last run of fixtures weren't really conducive towards that because we had just had big game after big game. But now this next run of fixtures looks a bit more sort of handy for these players to come in, so maybe even it's a bit of a blessing in disguise almost, if you want to call it that, if someone like Mane or Salah's not quite fit for these games, because it gives them two players a chance in particular.
Yeah, and that's the positive of this Liverpool side. Everyone talks about how the front three hasn't clicked yet, how the midfield have been good, have been probably good on the whole, but aren't offering enough going forward, aren't breaking the lines, aren't scoring enough goals. 3 between them I think they've got, and it's all about the defence and how the defence has improved, and we've got a goalkeeper. And I think that one of the big positives of this season is that we've got a Shaqiri, we've got a Sturridge every time he's come in feels as if he's scored, and it feels as if we can rely on him now more so, not just from the fact that he's staying fit, the fact that he looks really fit when he plays, and the fact that PSG especially, he did quite a bit of tracking back, he was winning the ball sort of deeper and giving out, he just looked like a different player. And I keep saying it, like Shaqiri, I'm just excited to watch him more in a Liverpool shirt, and I think this block of games now will be the games that Jurgen Klopp has sort of pinpointed at the beginning of the season to say, right, this is where the rotation really starts, because we saw that last season. He makes on average 5 changes, the most of any manager in the Premier League, and he'll have to do that from now until after Christmas pretty much, because it doesn't stop. And look, with the likes of Van Dijk, you spoke there about his injury. I think that Jurgen Klopp's going to be having dialogues with all of these international managers, isn't he? Like Koeman said it there. Koeman's pretty much confirmed it, that they've sort of made a little bit of a deal where he plays against Germany and then he's rested. And I think Klopp's going to have to do that, because we've seen Guardiola do that, where in the last international break, basically none of the main City players who've been starting went on international duty. They had little problems and blah blah blah. And I think Klopp's going to be working to manage that, and because it makes sense both for A, Klopp, and B, both for Koeman as well. Because the last thing Koeman wants, whenever the Euro qualifiers come around in March and in June, especially June, is a burnt out Virgil Van Dijk who's played every possible game he could. Because I don't want to rest him ever. I don't want to ever rest him.
Well, you do wonder though whether this next block of games, he's almost looking at like the running towards last season, where the Premier League games are maybe the ones where he experiments a bit with the team, and then given that we lost to Napoli, and I know people are looking at it as like not that big a blow, but these next 2 games against Red Star have sort of grown in importance. Definitely. Because of that, the 2 games we need to win. So you wonder whether maybe he even saves Van Dijk, Mane and Salah, or maybe a sort of combination of them for them Champions League games, and maybe Matip or Lovren. I know Walsh is putting his agenda here. He doesn't want to see him playing loads of games, and I'm sort of inclined to agree. But one thing I did notice in that Chelsea game, the League Cup one, was that just some of them players just look completely out of rhythm, and they're going to need a bit of that rhythm. They're going to need a bit of rotation to get the minutes, but also to improve and keep being them good options for Liverpool.
Definitely. And look, we've got Cardiff coming up at home, we've got Fulham coming up at home. Against these sides, I'm not too worried about putting a Lovren in there alongside Gomez to give Van Dijk a rest. I think those are the kind of games they'd be looking at to do that. And yeah, look, I think the last game Lovren played, I thought he was pretty good. I thought he looked pretty
against
good.
City,
yeah, against City. And I think that, you know, based on the sort of last 6 months of last season and how he bounced back from that Spurs game where we were all saying mad things about we never want to see him play again and all of that, just the usual like post-match fan reaction of like just thinking so short term. And like I think the way he's bounced back, the performance he's put in at the end of last season, the performance he put in even for Croatia as well, and the confidence he seems to have in his own ability at the moment, like I'd have no problem throwing him in against those weaker sides. And I think that you're right. I think those 2 games against Belgrade, we'd sort of, if we get that draw against Napoli, those 2 games against Belgrade probably see us qualify if we win them both, and obviously that doesn't happen. So that now the importance of them is massive, and I don't think he'll risk I don't think he'll risk dropping Van Dijk in those games. I think that I think maybe he looks to in the second game, but I think it'll be the sort of that one against Cardiff where you just can't imagine Cardiff really getting at us. You can't imagine.
Yeah, Neil Warnock he was saying after the City game, he basically like had pretty much conceded defeat to City before he'd even started the game. He said like that City are going to pace some sides this season, and he mentioned us as well. He's not even played us yet. Yeah. And he was already sort of saying like Liverpool are another side who are just going to batter some teams this season. But another one of the players who was looking like an injury concern until we all realised that he's an absolute machine and he's definitely not a human being is James Milner, the player who's definitely going to be Liverpool's record appearance holder when he finally retires at 60. He's an absolute unit, isn't he, Craig? He's apparently had this hamstring injury, which you know you can only assume was just a normal hamstring injury that most players would have. He'd be out for maybe a month to 2 months, but James Milner's not a normal human being and not a normal football player, is he? It's
just like not only physically, it's mentally, isn't it? It's the mentality that he has as a professional. You can tell that he really looks after himself. Like even in the summer when, you know, you usually see the footballers and they're off on their holidays and he's like big flash boats and you're like following their Instagram stories to see what they're up to because it's exciting. James Milner was running up and down hills in Yorkshire, and honestly, like it was boring to watch on Instagram stories, but also like it just goes to show what kind of a professional he is. That he was looking at Liverpool, he was looking at the players Liverpool had signed, so Fabinho, Keita, and I know Wijnaldum cited this as well, where they've looked at these players coming in their position and thought, well, I need to do everything to make sure that I'm still A in the manager's plans and B, you know, within you know, having a chance to start. And I think
that's probably why he's had the tag as boring over the years, because I know that sort of Twitter account came about, didn't it, where it was a boring James Milner and there was all that sort of thing. But I think you can get bored and confused with being a model professional, and like I know there's a thing that he doesn't drink and all the sort of Ribena jokes which came from that in terms of him drinking that, but like you sort of think that he is just a model professional, and the more of them you can have in your team, the better, because all at the end of the day, footballers are human beings and they're going to do things that normal human beings do, but the more you have of the sort of players who you can model your game around, and particularly when you've got the young players mentioned before, like Trent and Curtis Jones coming through, if they're seeing players like that, they're going to be more inclined to, you know, to have the sort of same level of professionalism as that.
Yeah, 100%. And He's won a league. He's one of the few players in that dressing room that's won a league, and he knows what it takes to win a league. And I think that's so important, and it's going to be so important this season. And the thing with Milner, the thing I always sort of think about is Milner broke through at the same time as Rooney, because remember they both scored debut goals, don't they, for Leeds and for Everton, and it's within 2 months of each other, so they both break through. And you look at what Wayne Rooney's doing now. He's playing for DC United in the MLS, and James Milner's starring for Liverpool pretty much. Like, he's been one of the best players this season, and you know that's I don't think that's any coincidence. You know, they're both sort of 32, 33, and you'd expect maybe a few more years from both of them, but it's about miles on the clock as well. And like he's been playing regularly since he was 17 years old. It's easy to forget how long he's been around and the amount of clubs he's played at in the Premier League. So the fact that he's looked after himself quite obviously throughout all of those years is paying dividends now, and you know, he's getting to play within one of the most exciting sides in Europe at the minute at age 32, 33, and that doesn't look like stopping anytime soon. And it's lovely, because I'm going to do A and B every time, but it's lovely that I've done it 3 times in this video. Before anyone puts it in the comments, I'm not going to do it. But like, it wasn't long ago where, you know, he plays left back and we're all going, brilliant, we've got the best left back in the league, and then he doesn't want to play left back, and we're playing Moreno, and it's like, but then we're all asking, well, where's James Milner getting a game? When's he playing in centre midfield? Because his legs have gone, he's not able to do this anymore. He's 32, and no, look at him now.
I sort of imagine him being like Will Smith and Hancock, like all the other players are getting their like normal injury treatments, like on the massage table and stuff like that, whereas he's just like sat on some bench by himself, like strapping himself up and like stopping any flow of blood from bad tackles he's got and things like that.
But in pre-season, didn't the Echo report that he won the bleep test? So he basically beat everyone in the bleep test. Whenever all the players are back, he beat everyone. I think Keita was second.
I reckon even when he retires, we should just bring him back for that bleep test or lactate test,
like
whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Just like embarrass all the young lads and be like, look, he's 57 and he's still beating you. You need to up your game.
But also, like, he's the kind of player that, like, even after, once he does retire, and I don't know what his plans are after after he's done at Liverpool, but after he retires, like, he's the kind of player that you want about at the club, that's played for Liverpool, that, you know, has that sort of that drive and that mentality to sort of be the best, and you know, it's exactly what you said. He's sort of an inspiration for the younger players that are coming through, and I'm sure he's helping the likes of Curtis Jones.
Yeah, Steven Gerrard as manager and James Milner on his coaching staff. I reckon that's it. That's just what the doctor ordered. In terms of what's on the Anfield wrap today, we've got the European show out around midday, and we've got a gutter show coming for you later as well. Don't think the transfers ever stop here on the Anfield wrap.
Especially, I've seen Rob Goodman and he's excited. It's like Christmas morning.
There's always something to talk about on the Anfield wrap. But that has been Talking Reds. Nice one to Craig. Nice one for watching. Hit subscribe if you enjoy the content.